I want to talk about education, that it is not God. In other words, we need to keep education in its proper place. For young people, those that are in school still, education is built up by those around you, by your teachers, principals, people on television and whatever media you're consuming. It's built up to be just about the most important thing you can ever have in your life. And I want us to look at, how does God teach us to think about it? So it's true that learning is good. In Proverbs 4, verse 7, it says, "Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom. And in all you're getting, get understanding." So we need to get understanding along with wisdom. That means we're having to learn something. Even if you understand the basics of mathematics, that helps you understand how to reason. The understanding how math works, not memorizing the formulas, but understanding the concepts behind it, helps you understand how to reason properly, how to think properly about all kinds of things. And the more we know, generally speaking, the better off we are. But you can understand how to reason without knowing advanced mathematics. You don't have to go so far in being able to think properly. You go into advanced mathematics only if you have a specific reason for that. If you learn how to read and how to write, you can learn pretty much anything you need to know and help other people learn things that they need to know too. But you can spend your whole life reading or writing things that are of no real benefit also. So you can become a great writer and spend your time writing, and it's no benefit to anyone. People who write fiction, it's entertaining, and so you can say, well, there's some benefit in being entertained, being relaxed, but there's not a great deal of benefit in that. I think I probably read hundreds of books when I was a child, and the only direct benefit that I got from most of them was just the practice of reading, which is good. It helps me read the Bible more effectively. But in general, a lot of those books that I read didn't do me any direct good because they were fictional books. They weren't really teaching me anything practical. And when you think about history, studying history, if you know the history of your country and of the world in general, that's useful for seeing what's going on in the present, because you can see, okay, what's happening now is very similar to what happened in the past. But the more that you learn about history, the more you realize that the history books are written by people who include certain things and leave out certain things because they want you to think in a certain way. And it doesn't matter who it is. That's true of all of them. So you can easily be manipulated because none of us knows the full story of the past. And for any given history book, we don't know exactly how accurate or truthful it is. The only history that we can be absolutely confident is in the Bible. That we know that history is it gives us everything we need to know about it. And it's absolutely truthful and reliable. With any other history that we're learning in school, we can't really know how reliable that is because a lot of those things can change over time as people discover new evidence or things like that about the history. So it is useful. It is a useful thing, but we need to understand that in itself, it's not that useful. We just have to learn how to apply it in useful ways. When you think about Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 9 and 10, he says, "He who quarries stones may be hurt by them, and he who splits wood may be endangered by it. If the axe is dull and one does not sharpen the edge, then he must use more strength. But wisdom brings success." So there are certain useful things that are also dangerous. And in that, we see that there's also has to be wisdom in how we approach it. So learning is helpful. Wisdom brings success. And he uses this picture of sharpening an axe so that you don't have to use as much strength. So if we work without learning, we're going to expend much more energy to accomplish the same task that we could have done in a more efficient way. So learning is like sharpening an axe. We're sharpening our ability to do that thing, making it more effective. But this is something we have to do throughout our lives. This is not just about when you're in school. You can't really work any job with only what you learn in school. I've worked several different industries before I started preaching, and in all of them, I had to learn on the job what I was going to do. The last one I worked in before I started preaching was in the software development industry, and I didn't have any training from school for that job. I never took a class dealing with computers at all before I took that job. I had to learn on the job how to do it. But you can do that because if you can read, you can learn how to do just about anything. Education doesn't just mean getting formal teaching in a school. And so this idea of sharpening the axe is something we're going to have to do throughout our lives in different areas. So you can think about even before there were any kinds of schools, or at least that was a common thing, people were able to work in all kinds of different industries for thousands of years. They still had to learn even though they didn't go to a school. So the focus on education being something you have to pay a school to give you, that's a fairly new concept. So what you need is knowledge and wisdom. And if a school is going to help you get that, then good. That's great. But if you're not really learning anything, you're just looking for a piece of paper. And I'm thinking mostly about university there, but this can apply to matric too. If you're just trying to get that matric certificate and you don't care to learn what's being offered, then what a waste of time and money. Really, it's a waste. I mean, I dropped out of university because of that. I was only going to go for a piece of paper that I really wasn't going to end up using. So, I was making good grades and all, but it wasn't going to help me. And so I wanted to spend my time with something much more useful, which was studying the Bible, because I didn't have as much time to do that while I was in university. And we need to recognize that we'll never learn everything. There's times where I've wanted to just try to learn everything. And there are people who they put way too much emphasis on education. They want to learn everything about everything, but that's a way to get depressed because it's never going to happen. Ecclesiastes 8 verse 16 and 17 says, "When I applied my heart to know wisdom and to see the business that is done on earth, even though one sees no sleep day or night, then I saw all the work of God, that a man cannot find out the work that is done under the sun. For though a man labors to discover it, yet he will not find it. Moreover, though a wise man attempts to know it, he will not be able to find it." It's an impossible goal to learn everything that there is to learn. It's not going to happen. There is no time at which you can say you've succeeded in that goal. It's an impossible goal. And we need to realize that, recognize it, and focus on learning the things that may actually help us live life better and help others. Someone can learn how to be a doctor, and that's going to help them and help other people, but they're probably not going to know a lot about fixing a car. Now, some doctors know how to fix cars, but the point is you need to know what you're going to be doing in life. You can't know everything about everything. And if you know how to fix a car, but you don't know how to do brain surgery, that's fine. You're going to be able to help people in fixing cars. And those that know how to clean floors and know what cleaning solutions work best, they're very useful to businesses, hospitals, other people. And those people don't necessarily have to know the ancient history of China. You don't have to know everything about everything to be useful in this world. And so if we choose a path of usefulness, then we need to focus on the things that will help us with it. It's fine to learn some other things, and that may help us in life in some ways, but we need to recognize that we will never know everything about everything. And so if you want to be an electrician, learn mathematics, physics, language to communicate and read documentation and all of that, but you're never going to know everything even about the field you go into. So be content with learning what will actually be helpful. And so, you're never going to find out everything that is done on earth, what's done under the sun, and nobody is. Nobody's even close to knowing everything. And worldly education is not that important in the long run. In Acts 7, that is not correct. Well, maybe that is actually correct. Yes. Oh, sorry. This is from Stephen talking about Moses. Acts 7, verse 22. He says, "And Moses was learned in all the wisdom of the Egyptians and was mighty in words and deeds." And yet he didn't use that in his work. He became a shepherd, and then he became the leader of the people. But what did he do in leading the people? He listened to God. God was the one who taught him how to lead the people, not the wisdom of the Egyptians. In 1 Corinthians 1 and verse 19 and 20, it says, "For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise and bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. Where is the wise? Where is the scribe? Where is the disputer of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of this world?" You can learn everything the world has to offer. In theory, you can't actually, but it will not lead you to the place that God made for you. In the end, it's just foolishness compared to God's knowledge and wisdom. But the beautiful thing is that God has offered us his wisdom and knowledge. So even someone who's very uneducated in the things of the world can learn God's wisdom and knowledge, and they're better off than the person who has multiple PhDs. The wisdom of this world cannot bring us into a relationship with God, and that's the whole point of our existence. The wisdom of this world is only useful in this world, and we need to remember what life is really about. We want to be walking with God now and for all eternity, and you're never going to do that by what you learn in school. In Proverbs 8, verses 10 and 11, he says, "Receive my instruction and not silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold, for wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things one may desire cannot be compared with her." And here he's talking about the wisdom that comes from God. God's education is what is truly valuable. It's more valuable than all the money in the world. And the wisdom of this world can maybe teach you how to make money, make your lives more physically comfortable, but it's of temporary benefit. Our lives are short, and so our goal should not be comfort, but being useful to the God who made us and walking with him now so that we can walk with him, living with him through eternity. In Proverbs 9, verse 10, it says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding." The beginning of real wisdom is fearing God. Knowing him is the true understanding that we need to be seeking. Not what the world values, not what everybody else praises, but what will actually benefit us and everybody around us. In Ecclesiastes 12, in verses 11 through 14, it says, "The words of the wise are like goads, and the words of scholars are like well-driven nails given by one shepherd. And further, my son, be admonished by these. Of making many books there is no end, and much study is wearisome to the flesh. Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is man's all. For God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether good or evil." When you think about study, he says, much study is wearisome to the flesh. Study can wear you out. Obviously, matric students are very familiar with this, and others as well. And you'll never be able to read all the books. There's too many to read. But what you can do is fear God and keep his commandments, which is man's all. It's what life is all about. It's our purpose in life. Our purpose in life is not learning everything man has to offer. We want to learn what God has to offer, which is true wisdom. You might wear yourself out trying to get a piece of paper, and it might not even benefit you. It might not do you very much good in this life. People lock themselves in at school for no real benefit, and they don't go to the classes that teach them the wisdom of God, which has eternal benefit. We need to think about what is actually important. And there are even students who, when they fail matric, they think they failed at life, which is very ignorant, because those who pass matric, most of them have failed at life. Even people with the highest educational credentials, most of them have failed at life because they have failed to fear God and keep his commandments. And if you do that, you have succeeded at life, no matter what job you're able to get or what other people around you think about you. In Ecclesiastes 9, well, I don't know if I reference that properly, but I think so. And verse 9 through 12 is what I have here. But just verse 10 says, whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might, for there is no work or device or knowledge or wisdom in the grave where you are going. So even if you are going to work at going to school, you need to put energy into it. You need to focus on it. But in all of that, don't forget the Lord at any point in your life, because no matter what you're trying to do, you can become the strongest, the wisest. You can still die at any point. You don't know what the future holds. But if you walk with the Lord, you're secure. In Ecclesiastes 12, verse 1, he says, remember now your Creator in the days of your youth, before the difficult days come and the years draw near when you say, I have no pleasure in them. Don't waste your life doing things without remembering your Creator. Your life will eventually end, and for many, before it ends, it becomes very difficult. So walk with God while you can be useful. Look at what He wants you to do now and get busy doing that. Don't let the world tell you what you need to be doing with your time. Listen to God. And in conclusion, just to review, don't wear yourself out for what has no long-term benefit. There's a lot of learning that really does not have long-term benefit. I've wasted many, many hours in my life learning things that really didn't benefit me or anybody else. And we need to do our best while making the most important things our priorities. That whatever we're doing, we need to do it with all our might, but at the same time, make the most important things the most important things. So do your best at what you're doing because God wants you to do that, but do not neglect learning the knowledge of God and His wisdom, which will give you an eternal benefit. It gives you something that you will take away from this life, not just useful in this life. So if you fear God and keep His commandments, you will have succeeded at life, no matter how you do academically. So learn how to think from God, not from the world. Do not think that the pressure that you are under at school is reasonable. It's not. Learn from God, make His things important to you, and generally you're going to excel in the other areas of life as well. But make God's things the most important things to you. All right, that's it for tonight. Thank you.